Hello, scientists. You have been studying weather patterns. Today, we're going to take a look at bar graphs. A bar graph is a chart that uses bars or strips to show amounts. In class, we created this chart. It's called What's the Weather? And we wanted to find out what the weather was like outside across 10 days. We wanted to know how many days were sunny, cloudy, rainy, or snowy. So we tallied up how many sunny days there were, and there were 5 sunny days. We tallied how many cloudy days there were, and there were 3 cloudy days. Then we tallied how many rainy days there were, and there were 2 rainy days. Last, we wanted to find out how many snowy days there were, and there were no snowy days, and that's why there are no tally marks under that picture of the cloud with the snow. Now, what we did next was we took the information from this chart and we created a bar graph. Take a moment to look at this bar graph. What do you notice? Okay, now I'm going to explain different parts of the bar graph. One part of a bar graph is the title. It's the name of the bar graph. Just like a story has a title, so do bar graphs. The title of this bar graph says, "What's the weather?" because that's what we're trying to find out. On a bar graph, there are lines. There are vertical lines. Those are lines that are going up and down. And there are horizontal lines. Those are lines that are going from left to right or side to side. Let's take a look at the vertical line. Next to the vertical line, there are numbers. Can you read those numbers? Those numbers go from 0 to 6. Take a look at the words near the horizontal line at the bottom of the graph. Can you read any of those words? The first word says sunny, the second word says cloudy, the third word says rainy, and the last word says snowy. Let's take a look at the numbers on the bar graph. Those numbers are next to the vertical line, the line that's going up and down. Can you figure out what those numbers represent? If you said days, you're correct. Those numbers represent the days a particular weather happened. Next, let's take a look at the words at the bottom of the bar graph. Those are the words that are just under the horizontal line at the bottom. We said those words said sunny, cloudy, rainy, and snowy. What do those words represent? If you said weather, you're correct. Those words represent the weather. When creating a bar graph, you need to make sure that you label what the numbers represent and what the words represent. Why do we do this? So whoever's reading the bar graph understands what those numbers mean and what they're for, and what those words mean and what they're for. Now we're going to look at the bars on the bar graph. Do the bars on this bar graph look the same? Do they look different? Well, they're all the same color, but they are different in height. Let's take a closer look at the first bar on this bar graph. The first bar on this bar graph is the tallest bar. It's just above the word sunny, and it reaches up to the number 5. What does that tell us? That tells us that there were 5 sunny days when we were checking what the weather was like across the span of 10 days. Let's take a look at the next bar on the graph. The next bar is just above the word cloudy, and it reaches up to the number 3. What does that mean? Think about it. That means there were 3 cloudy days when we were checking what the weather was like across 10 days. 3 of those days were cloudy. And let's look at the third bar. What word is that bar above? Rainy. And how many rainy days were there? You're right. There were 2 rainy days. When we were checking the weather outside across 10 days, 2 of those days were rainy. And let's look at the next word on that bar graph, right after rainy. The next word says snowy. There is no bar above that word. There's no bar above that word because there were 0 snowy days when we checked the weather outside. Now I'm going to ask some questions about the information on this bar graph. My first question is, which happened the most? Was it sunny outside, cloudy outside, rainy, or snowy outside the most? If you said sunny, you're correct. Here's my other question. Which weather did not occur when we were checking the weather outside? Was it sunny, cloudy, rainy, or snowy? If you said snowy, you're correct. Here's my third question. How many cloudy days were there when we were checking the weather across 10 days? If you said 3 cloudy days, you're correct. Let's wrap up what you learned so far. You learned what a bar graph is, the parts of a bar graph, and how to read a bar graph. I hope you enjoyed this video.